The night had not yet decided whether it wanted to be peaceful or violent. The neon lights of the roadside diner flickered like a tired heartbeat, throwing broken reflections across the parking lot where rainwater gathered in shallow puddles. Inside, the diner was warm, dim, and nearly empty except for a few truckers, a couple whispering by the windows, and a young woman wiping down the counter for what had to be the 7th time. Lena always cleaned when she was anxious. The owner, Doris, told her it was a habit she'd picked up from years of caring for a mother who was barely sober half the time. But cleaning helped her breathe. It was rhythm, it was order, it was control. She didn't have much control over tonight, though, not since those 3 men walked in. They sat in the corner booth with their muddy boots propped on the opposite seat, laughter too loud, eyes too sharp. She'd hoped they would eat quickly and leave. She'd survived worse customers in her life. Drunks, bikers, cops, spoiled teenagers. But something about these 3 felt wrong in a way that made her hands shake. The tallest one, the one with the slicked back hair and a smirk that never left his lips, kept staring at her, staring in a way that crawled under her skin. "Hey, sweetheart," he called out when she passed their table again. "Come on, give us another coffee. And smile this time, yeah?" She didn't smile. She poured the coffee in silence, careful not to get too close. "Aw, come on," another man chuckled. "We're just being friendly." The tall one reached out suddenly, wrapping his fingers around her wrist. Berlina froze. "I said smile." Or his grip tightened until she felt her bones grind together. She tried to pull back, but he held her firm, his eyes sharpening with amusement at her fear. "Bart, let me go," she whispered. "Or what?" He leaned closer. "You'll tell someone. No one here gives a damn." His friend snickered. "Yeah, sweetheart, relax. We're just having some fun." But the tall one wasn't playing. His grip shifted up her arm, thumb digging into her skin, sliding dangerously close to her shoulder. Then he yanked her towards him. She gasped, stumbling forward, the coffee pot nearly slipping from her hand. Doris shouted from the kitchen, "Hey, leave the girl alone." The tall man didn't even look up. "Mind your business, old woman." Berlina finally jerked her arm free and backed away, clutching it against her chest. She didn't want to cry, not in front of them, not ever. "You're gonna leave a bruise," she said under her breath. That made him grin. "Good, then you'll remember me." She hurried off, heart pounding. She needed to calm down, she needed to breathe, she needed bar. The bell above the diner door rang, .br, and a man walked in who changed everything. He was tall, broad-shouldered, with a thick beard and dark eyes that scanned the room like he was trained to read danger. A leather jacket clung to him, heavy with rainwater. There was something carved into its back, something recognizable only to those who understood the world outside the law. The Iron Reapers. Lena knew them only by reputation, a biker brotherhood that cleaned up the streets in ways the cops wouldn't. Men who protected their own, men who followed a code. The stranger didn't look like trouble, though, not in the way the 3 men in the booth did. His trouble was the quiet kind, the controlled kind, the kind that simmered beneath the skin. He walked up to the counter slowly, bought, and he saw her rubbing her arm. His gaze lowered. The bruise was forming already, deep red lines where fingers had pressed too hard. His jaw tightened. "Who did that?" he asked. Berlina shook her head. "It's nothing." He didn't move, didn't blink. "Who hurt you?" "It's fine," she insisted. "Just customers. They'll leave soon." He followed her gaze to the booth. The tall one noticed him staring and smirked. Then he mouthed something filthy meant only for them. The stranger's face changed. Something snapped quietly in his expression, the way a storm decides it no longer wants to be gentle. He pushed away from the counter and walked straight toward them. The 3 men noticed his approach and looked amused. The tall one leaned back casually as if he already owned the place. "Problem, big guy?" he said, not bothering to hide his smirk. The stranger stopped in front of him. "You touched her." The tall man raised a brow. "What if I did?" The stranger didn't breathe for a moment. Then in a voice so deadly calm it chilled the entire diner, he said, "You hurt my girl?" Lena's eyes widened. I don't know him." But the stranger ignored her. His stare was carved in steel. The tall man laughed. "Your girl? Oh, buddy, she didn't seem like anyone's girl. And anyway, what are you gonna do about it?" He didn't get to finish. The stranger grabbed him by the front of his shirt and slammed him against the booth wall with a force that shook the table and sent silverware clattering to the floor. The whole diner froze. The tall man's friends stood up, grabbing bottles, ready to strike. But the stranger didn't flinch. He stepped back, cracking his knuckles once, eyes never leaving the men who dared lift a hand against her. The tallest guy pointed his bottle at him. "You want to die tonight, biker boy?" The stranger smirked. "You should have kept your hands to yourself." The tall man lunged toward him. The stranger reached into his pocket and tapped something on his phone. One quick movement, one press, nothing more. Then he spoke loud enough for the entire diner to hear, "You have 30 seconds to apologize to her." The tall man opened his mouth to spit an insult. He got out only one word. "Why?" The bell above the door rang again, and then again, and again, and again. Motorcycle engines thundered into the parking lot like a growing earthquake. One biker entered, then another, then 5 more. Leather jackets, Iron Reaper's insignias, boots heavy with rain. Within seconds, 47 bikers surrounded the 3 men's booth, filling the diner, blocking every exit, towering over them like a wall of judgment. The tall man swallowed hard. "Oh, shit." Where the stranger finally smiled. "Your 30 seconds are up." The 3 men who had swaggered into the diner full of arrogance suddenly looked like cornered animals. They stood with their backs pressed tightly against the booth, their earlier bravado leaking out of them drop by drop. "Now," said the stranger, the man who had walked in alone and turned the entire diner into a fortress, "you're going to talk to her." But the tall man's voice trembled. What do you want me to say?" "Beer, you heard her," the stranger replied. "So you're going to apologize." BR, one of the bikers behind him, a red-haired giant with arms like tree trunks, chimed in. "Better make it convincing, mate. Our boy doesn't like fake apologies." Another biker cracked his knuckles loudly, but the tall man gulped and turned to Lena. I'm sorry, okay? I didn't mean—" "Beer, that's not an apology," the stranger interrupted. "Say it properly." The tall man hesitated, until one biker stepped closer and simply stared at him. That was enough. "I'm sorry," he said quickly, eyes darting around in panic. "I shouldn't have grabbed you. I was just messing around. I'm sorry. For real." Lena didn't say anything. She didn't trust her voice not to shake. The stranger tilted his head. "Look her in the eyes." The tall man forced himself to meet her gaze. "I'm sorry, miss." Lena nodded weakly. "Okay." But the stranger wasn't finished. "You and your friends are going to leave this diner. You're going to get into your truck, and you're going to drive away from this town, right now." One of the other men tried to speak. "We didn't mean any—" "Out," the stranger ordered. The bikers parted only enough for the 3 men to squeeze through. Their boots slipped on the wet floor as they stumbled toward the door, nearly tripping over each other in their rush. When they reached the exit, the stranger added, "If any of you ever lay a hand on a woman again, not just her, any woman, we'll find you." The tall man nodded rapidly. "We won't. We swear." They ran outside. The bikers stayed still, silent as carved stone, until the men's truck peeled out of the parking lot and disappeared down the dark road. The diner exhaled collectively. The stranger turned back to Lena. "You okay?" he asked softly, his voice losing the steel and turning into something warm, something gentle enough to make her chest ache. She nodded again, though she clearly wasn't. Her hands were still shaking. "Come here," he said quietly. She stepped closer, and he looked at her arm. The bruise was already forming, angry red, fading into purple. He breathed in sharp. "They hurt you worse than I thought." "It's fine," she whispered, out of habit. She always said things were fine, even when they weren't. But he saw through it. "It's not fine." She blinked fast, trying not to cry. But the more she tried to hide it, the more her emotions began spilling over. He noticed her struggle. "Let's sit." He led her to a booth away from the broken table, pulling the seat out for her. The gesture was gentle, almost old-fashioned. She sat down, rubbing her hands together to steady herself. The bikers stayed near the walls, giving her space while still watching over the diner like silent guardians. Doris came out of the kitchen, wiping her hands on her apron. "Well, I'll be damned," she muttered. "Which one of you angels is paying for the damages?" One biker raised his hand instantly. "Put it all on me, ma'am." Doris snorted. "A bunch of bikers who say ma'am. I swear the world is getting stranger," but she smiled warmly. "Thank you." The stranger didn't sit opposite Lena. Instead, he stood next to her booth, leaning close to make sure she felt safe but not cornered. "I should have stepped in sooner," he said quietly. "You didn't even know me," she replied. You don't need to know someone to protect them." She blinked back tears. No one had said anything like that to her in years. Maybe ever. "What's your name?" she asked. "Jax." It suited him, strong, solid, unmoving. "And the 47 men?" she said with a shaky laugh. He actually smiled, just a little. "They're my brothers." She studied him for a moment. "Why did you call them here?" "Because when he touched you—" His jaw clenched. It felt wrong. Wrong enough that I knew I'd need backup. "Why did you care? You don't know me." He hesitated before answering. "Because," he said slowly, "the moment I walked in, I saw the fear in your eyes, and something in me snapped." Lena swallowed. Her heart thudded faster. "Why?" Jax looked down at her bruise again, his voice low, almost rough with emotion. "Because no one hurts my girl." "Brr," she shook her head. "I'm not your girl." Brr, he met her gaze, dark, intense, certain. "Not yet." Brr, her breath caught, but before she could say anything else, one of the bikers hurried over from the window. "Jax," he said, "we've got a problem." Brr, Jax straightened. His entire posture shifted from gentle to alert in a heartbeat. "What is it?" Brr, the biker lowered his voice. "Those guys, they didn't leave town." Berlina stiffened. "What do you mean?" "They pulled over a mile up the road," the biker continued. "And guess who just pulled up behind them?" Jax's eyes narrowed. "Who?" "A sheriff's cruiser." Berlina felt her stomach drop. "No, don't tell me." "Bar, they're talking to the cops," the biker confirmed, pointing back this way. "Looks like they're filing complaints." Jax breathed out slowly through his nose. "Of course they are. Cowards." "What are we going to do?" another biker asked. "Bar, we'll deal with it," Jax said firmly. But Lena felt panic spiking inside her. "They're going to lie," she said. "They'll say you started everything. They'll say you attacked them." Jax didn't look shaken. "Let them talk." "But the sheriff here hates bikers," Doris added. "He's been waiting for an excuse to shut down anyone wearing leather." Jax cracked his neck once. "Then let him come." A heavy rumble of engines cut through the air. More headlights approached the diner. But not motorcycles. Squad cars. Three of them. And the men Jax had driven away were sitting in the back of one. Lena felt herself go cold. The bikers stood straighter, united, ready. Jax placed a reassuring hand on her shoulder. "Stay inside, I'll handle this." She grabbed his wrist. "No, please, I don't want you to get arrested because of me." Jax looked at her softly. "I told you already." He brushed his thumb gently against her cheek. "No one hurts my girl." Then he stepped outside to face the sheriff. The sheriff stepped out of his cruiser with the confidence of a man who believed he owned the whole county. His boots splashed through muddy puddles as he adjusted his hat and looked around at the sea of bikers gathered in front of the diner. Well, Sheriff Dalton drawled. "What do we have here, a biker convention or a riot in progress?" Jax didn't flinch. "Evening, Sheriff." Dalton smirked. "Is it? Because I just heard a very interesting story from those three fine gentlemen over there." Jax didn't turn his head, but his voice sharpened. "Fine gentlemen? They assaulted a woman." Funny," Dalton said, "because they claim you assaulted them, broke a booth, made threats, called in a whole gang to intimidate them." The bikers behind Jax bristled. "They didn't mention," Jax replied evenly, "the part where they grabbed the waitress, dragged her by the arm and told her no one cared what happened to her." Dalton shrugged. "I didn't see that." You didn't see anything," Jax said. "You never do, at least not when women need help." Dalton's smirk faltered. "Watch your mouth, son." "I'm not your son." For a moment, only the rain spoke, hitting the pavement hard, making the tension thicker. Dalton took one step closer. "You think bringing your biker club here scares me?" Jax stepped forward to meet him. "No, I think it reminds you that you can't bully everyone." The sheriff's jaw clenched. "You're all under suspicion for intimidation, property damage, and assault." The bikers shifted, ready to defend themselves, but Jax lifted a hand, keeping them still. "Before you go arresting the wrong people, there's something you should see." Dalton frowned. "And what's that?" Jax turned toward the diner door and nodded once. Lena stepped out, her hands were shaking. Her voice trembled, but she stood straight. "Sheriff Dalton," she said, "they hurt me. I told them to stop. They grabbed me, yanked me, and wouldn't let go. Bear, is that so? Dalton asked coldly. She lifted her sleeve. The bruise was vivid, undeniable, shaped exactly like a man's hand. Gasps rippled across the biker line. Dalton's expression flickered for the first time. But Lena wasn't finished. They told Doris to shut up. They told me no one would care. They said I should smile for them. And when I tried to get away, he pulled harder. Jax's fists tightened at his sides. Dalton looked at the bruise, then at Lena's trembling hands, then at the three men cowering inside the cruiser. Is that true? He asked sharply. The tall man stuttered. She's lying! We never touched! Jax took one step forward, and the man shut his mouth instantly. Dalton finally exhaled. You boys stay right where you are. He signaled 2 deputies. Get them out! Sheriff! The tall man protested as he was dragged from the cruiser. We're the victims! The biker attacked us! Dalton spun on him. A woman with a handprint bruise on her arm says otherwise, and unless she somehow grew your exact hand size, you're done. The deputies cuffed the 3 men and shoved them into the back of another squad car. The tall man looked at Jax one last time. This isn't over, he hissed. Jax smiled faintly. Oh, it is. When the doors slammed shut and the squad car pulled away, the tension finally broke. Lena sagged slightly, and Jax immediately reached out to steady her. You did good, he murmured. She wiped at her eyes. I didn't want you to get hurt. Jax gave a soft laugh. You think any of them could hurt me with 46 brothers behind me? One biker shouted from behind, 47. Another added, Don't forget Charlie, he's in the bathroom. Lena actually laughed, a sound Jax realized he wanted to hear again. And again. Dalton cleared his throat, looking uncomfortable. Jax, I'll mark this down as self-defense, but you all need to leave town by morning. Jax nodded. We will, Dalton sighed, defeated. Try not to blow up any diners on the way out. The sheriff walked back to his cruiser and drove off. With the danger gone, the bikers relaxed, talking to each other, joking, slapping each other's backs. Some went inside to help clean the mess. Some helped Doris fix the booth. But Jax stayed with Lena. You okay now? He asked. She took a breath, her first steady one in hours. Yeah. Because of you. He shook his head. Because of you. You stood up for yourself. That took more strength than anything I did. She looked down at her bruise. He gently took her arm in his hands, his touch careful, respectful. You didn't deserve this, he whispered. No, she said quietly, but I deserved someone to care. And tonight, you did. He brushed a strand of hair out of her face, his fingers lingering for a moment. You're safe now. I promise you. That, Lena bit her lip. What happens now? He hesitated, then said the words he'd been holding back since he first walked into the diner. You come with me. She blinked. What? Not forever, he added quickly. Not unless you want to. Just away from here. Away from men who think they can touch you. Away from fear. Her eyes softened. Why me? Because, Jax said, voice low and honest, I've been searching for something for a long time, and I didn't realize what it was until I saw you. She felt her heart turn warm, soft, alive. And what was that? He smiled, slow, steady, real, a reason. She leaned into him, her forehead resting against his chest. The rain eased, the sky lightened, the biker engines hummed like a lullaby. Jax? She whispered. Yeah? She looked up at him with eyes that carried the weight of a lifetime and said the words that sealed everything. I want to go with you. He wrapped his arm around her protectively, guiding her toward the bikes where 47 engines waited. Then let's go, sweetheart. And when he helped her onto his bike and the engines roared to life, Lena realized something she had never believed before. Sometimes heroes wear leather. Sometimes angels ride motorcycles. And sometimes